This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
This episode is brought to you guys by the 2024 Alchemy Excellence event.
Today's the day, baby.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Do you actually know why Liquid Death came to be? Do you want to know the story?
Tell me the story, because I've heard multiple. Tell me the story.
Okay, I'll tell you the actual story, because I talked to,
tell me the
of
actual
course,
story.
the founder and then their investor group. Peter Pham is the investor down in LA that put all the money together and launched it with them. But so this dude's going to school, California, and he goes to like the jam sessions with a bunch of the bands on the campus. And then there was a jam fest. And he's back there, and there were some of the national brands bands that came in. They were on the stage playing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was behind with all these different bands. And Monster was the sponsor, right?
Yep.
And so they had Monsters all around in the back, but they all had these little stickers on the bottom of them that said band water. And he's like, what the hell's band water? What does that mean? They're like, well, you can't drink Monster and be out on stage and like be jamming in the sun. You'll pass out. You need like liquid.
Yeah.
And so we just dump them out, fill it with water. So
No
we look
way.
cool. And so he's like, wait, what? And so he came up with a water that looked cool, because you don't want to be standing like with one of these in a party too.
Yeah, not at all.
Because you look like a dipshit.
True.
So he came out with that, and it started just to have people that don't want to drink look like they're drinking and hang and be cool, but then also for bands.
See, I've heard a variation of that, which is so sick. Like,
That's a crazy. I mean, you think of like, how did you come up with that? And it's like, that's
I wanted
pretty
to look
brilliant.
cool.
Not just look cool, but that was the reason he wanted to look cool.
So we're gonna dive in, tell some stories, chat, hopefully get some advice, get to know you a little bit. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are already, you're the founder of the Savory Fund, which we're gonna dive into what that is. If you don't know what that is, anyone in Utah knows what that is, right? Or they know what you've done, right? Which is,
Or they know one of the brands, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something affiliated, something that you've gone and helped. So I'm super excited to dive into that. But like, just to start it, who are you? Like, where are you from? Who are you? And then we'll dive into everything.
Yeah. So born and raised in Chicago, on the North Shore, in a town called Evanston.
Okay.
I was there because my dad was a dentist, and then he was also one of the deans at Northwestern. So
Okay,
we were in the
cool.
city for that reason. My parents actually grew up in northern Utah, so in Ogden area.
Okay.
Got married, they went out there to school, had 5 siblings, so they had 5 kids while we were out there. And so I grew up in the city. It was super dope. It's the greatest city on earth. I mean, it's much better than New York, San Francisco, LA by a long shot.
Tough in the winter, though.
Super tough in the winter. I remember I had 2 younger boys, and I told them one time when I brought them to Chicago, I'm like, you're going to see what it feels like when your eyeballs freeze. And they're like, what? We went out there one time, walked around a building, 30 degree below wind chill. And they're like, Dad, our eyes are tacky. I'm like, it's because they're freezing. So yeah, it's cold out there.
Dude, I went to Chicago for the first time 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. Blew my mind.
It's
I don't know
amazing.
why I never really affiliated it with the big cities.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously,
A lot of people
it's a
think
big
it's
city.
smaller. They think the coasts have the big cities. It's a big city.
It's huge, and
Yeah.
it is Gotham.
It's Gotham.
That blew my mind. I
It
was
is.
walking around Gotham. Chicago's amazing.
It's
really
amazing.
cool shopping blast. Okay, so how did you get from there back to Utah?
Yeah. The thing you don't typically want to do is go to a school where your dad's a dean. Just so
True.
you know. So
True.
most of my siblings.
Did you figure that out the hard way, or did you?
No. I watched my brother. He went to Northwestern. He enjoyed it, but then he came out here to go to BYU. I have some cousins in Alpine, so
Okay.
we would come out during summer sometimes and hang out in Alpine when it was much smaller Utah. Right, everything was orchards that wasn't grown out,
Yeah.
but it was still cool to me. I like the mountains. I like the outdoors, and so my siblings before me had come, brother, 2 sisters, and I'm like, I think I'm going to go out there and try Utah. I came out here. Liked it, didn't love it the first year and a half I was here. Went to
Mhm.
school and then went back to Chicago.
Oh, you went back.
I went back to Chicago. I thought that I wanted to be like the Bachelor, right? Where I lived in a flat in the city, live the city life, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, this could be super cool. And so I went out there, liked it, started dating a gal, thought I was going to marry her, was there for a year and a half, worked for this cool company called Sears and Roebuck. That puts me back there a little bit.
Okay, Sears, and what did you do?
I sold soft goods at Sears. So like electronics.
Heck yeah.
Right. So electronic stuff, but made good money when I was, I don't know, what was I, 19 at the time, and lived in the city, and I loved it.
Did you live the city life?
No, lived the city life.
I love that.
I lived it hard.
You scratched that itch.
Yeah, I scratched that itch big time.
Good.
And I don't know, I just felt like I was being called back here for some reason. So I came back to Salt Lake and have been here ever since.
I love that. So not born and raised here, obviously, which is really, really cool. So you have that outlook, very, very different outlook than most people who are born and raised here.
Yeah.
And then you came, didn't love it, moved back, came back.
Realized I loved it.
Right? Realized you loved it. That's one thing I've realized. The more time, I always thought, I'm going to move out of Utah when I get home. I'm going to move out of Utah. And then when I moved out of Utah, I was like, holy crap, I miss Utah.
Yeah, you do. And I think that when you fly around the country has got so much to offer. It's a beautiful country, right?
Yeah.
Cool cities. There's cool history everywhere. I don't know. Whenever you fly back and you land in Utah and you get in your car, you're like, this just feels right. It's just 100%. So good here.
It is 100%. So then you get back to Utah, and then what's your journey getting back to Utah? How old are you at this point? 23?
I'm 20 years old when I come back.
Oh, you're 20.
So I went out there when I was 18 and a half, was there a year and a half, came back here when I was 20.
Got it. So came back when you were 20, and then what was the journey from there?
Started going back to school, started getting, went to a company called Ultimate Electronics up here in Orem.
Okay, so you were just an electronic
I was an electronic
guru.
guy. I was selling it.
You're just selling it.
At the time, though, it was like theaters. Theaters were big, in-home theaters.
Oh, yeah.
So we were selling theater systems and stuff, and I love that stuff. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
Back in the day, and you could make good money doing it. So made great money, met the Southern California blonde gal, fell in love, put a ring on her finger, and was thinking I was going to get married to her.
Yep.
And we were planning out a wedding, and out of the blue, she's like, you know what? I don't think we should get married until you serve a mission. And I'm like, a mission? I'm not going on a mission. And she's like, yeah, I think you need to go serve a mission before we get married. I'm like, you've got a ring on your finger. Like
we're already there.
We're there.
Yeah.
And she's like, nope. So I don't know what. God intervened there a little bit. And so I'm like, fine. And so I kind of did it in spite of everything.
No way.
Yeah. 4 months later, I was on a mission.
No way. And she was cool with that?
No way.
That sounds... I didn't serve a mission. All my friends did.
Yeah.
And I think about, like, after you already make the decision not to serve a mission, what it would take to get you to serve a mission is psychotic.
A girl.
That is psychotic.
A girl that you love is the only way that you can get out there. So I went because she was like, you better go. I'm like, freak. So
and where did you serve?
Dominican Republic. It was like tough mission. Like
that's a curveball.
Oh, it was
I
a
didn't
huge
expect
curveball.
that. I like that.
So listen, I have a ring on her finger. I'm thinking she's gonna wait for me. 1 year in, I get the letter.
No.
Oh yeah, I get the letter. She's like,
did you finish? You
Yes.
served the full term?
I was thinking about coming home, but I didn't.
Oh my gosh.
So she returned the ring to my sister, and that was living out here, and she got married to another dude, and I was out there like crushed.
No.
But I stayed, persevered until the end. I don't like quitting. That's one thing I would say is I just don't quit.
I love
what
that.
it is.
I love that. And what was so in that moment? Take yourself back to that moment. You get sorry to make you go relive that.
let's talk about your pain.
Yeah, let's go to that directly to it and relive it. What was going through? I'm sorry. What was going through your mind?
I came out here for you because of you, and now you're abandoning me. I felt abandoned. I felt like I was lied to.
Did you tell her that?
Oh, for sure.
And
but you have to remember though. Back in that time, dude,
letters.
you're like letters, and it was 2-3 weeks late.
Oh my god!
So she told me, and it was 2 weeks late, 3 weeks late.
And then you sent one back, and it's like a month. She's already like,
she's gone, so man.
Oh my!
There's no
gosh.
FaceTime. There's no phone calls. There's nothing.
Oh my gosh! That my respect
It's like a
just
Dead
went
Sea
up for
Scrolls.
you.
You get them like this off of a fax
Oh
machine.
my gosh! Okay, so heart shattered. I assume
Shattered.
You
yeah.
finished, that's incredible.
I
Like a
finished.
mission alone is incredibly difficult.
Super hard, and mine was hard.
In the DR is probably especially.
If there was a fourth world, it's the DR. It was backwoods, and you know you got a machete on your back, and you're chopping grass and sticks and stuff, going from hut to hut. It was hard.
Hindsight, do you feel like that's the best place you could have been for something like that to happen?
Probably, because the only reason I didn't come home is because there was an ocean in between me and Miami.
Yeah,
because I think I would have probably come home and tried to save the relationship. But
yeah,
no, I'm in an island in the middle of the ocean.
That is psycho. That is psycho.
It is psycho.
So
we're only 5 minutes in, and this is a crazy conversation.
I'm loving it. I'm enjoying every second. That was a curveball. In a weird way, sometimes I feel like I can predict how a conversation's going to go and anticipate it. That was a curveball that caught me.
I got
off
a couple
guard.
more curveballs for
So
you.
if I lost my cool, that's why.
Yeah.
So then, okay, you go, you finish out the full 2 years, coming home. What was that feeling? Like, obviously with the girl stuff, was there baggage? Was it like, screw this? I
probably felt more motivated to come back and just conquer the world, right? Like I kind of felt like I did this, I sacrificed, and I felt like someone said something to me that was something I held on to as the reason I was there, and then I lost it, and I think I had on my own personal conversion, maybe between me and God, that
Which
I was
is
like,
awesome.
I needed it.
Yep.
I didn't have it in my life. I grew up a Mormon kid in Chicago, which is very different than Utah.
Yep.
It just is. And so I think I needed that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been my rock for the rest of my life. So I think I don't regret it, but I was angry.
For sure.
And then the last part of my mission, I'm like, I learned the most about myself and about my life and about what I wanted to do, which is I'm just going to go put my head down and crush.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I do.
And subconsciously, you probably worked that muscle of not quitting to a whole new level.
Oh yeah.
Like you maybe don't even, or didn't even at the time realize the fact that like you go and do that. Now your brain knows you don't quit, period.
Yeah.
Like things can get pretty damn hard after that. And you already know you're not going to quit. You're like you said, you're wired not to quit. And I think that's
I'm just
probably a big
wired not
part
to
of
quit,
it.
especially when I had a lot of chances where I thought I am going to quit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of chances. And there was some stuff that went on in our mission that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. And the church had to send some of their leaders down to fix it. And I was right in the middle of all of it. And it's not for this podcast, but at the end of the day, I went through stuff that I'm like, I had to be here.
Yeah. That's very, very cool. And where did that come from? The prior to your mission, where did I don't quit come from?
My dad.
Your dad.
Yeah. My dad, he was the dad that I knew I knew he loved us. He was very close to us, but he was never around. And when I say never, he was never around. He was busy, right? He was a dentist and had a practice right on Michigan Avenue. So had a practice there that he had. And then he was also a teacher, professor at the school, as well as an associate dean. So he was a dean of the dental school.
Yeah.
So he was just very busy. And then he was also a forensic dentist.
What does that mean?
A forensic dentist is someone that identifies people had been killed.
By
raped,
their teeth.
Murdered by their teeth. And even in plane crashes where you burn up, the only thing left is teeth. So he was all over the country doing forensics too, all the time.
That's crazy.
So he was never around, but I saw how hard he worked for 5 kids in the city. We had a good life, but it's not like we were so wealthy that we could do everything and anything. You're living in the city, right? And so just watching how hard my father worked and how devoted he was to his family made me kind of go, I just want to be him. I want to do whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter if he was sick, he'd go and get on the train because we lived outside the city, take the train into the city, do his work, come home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'd say hi to him for a minute. But then every weekend on Sundays is when I would see him. And
awesome.
like I said, we were Mormons, but we'd go to church or whatever, and he'd be in leadership positions. And then he'd come home. He's like, okay, everybody, load up in the car. We're going to go have food. We're going to go see a movie, whatever. And he just cared about his family. And so he had a very tight-knit bond with his family. So I don't know. I just watched him and I'm like, I want to work as hard as he is.
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes,
awesome,
right?
Yeah, that's an awesome. Having a role model like that's so big. That's amazing. You get back from your mission. You come back to Utah, right? Then what's the life path from there? At that
I literally
point, you're
flew home to Chicago, got off the plane, and I think 4 days later, bought a car and drove across the country to Utah again.
And did you have anything in Utah, or were you like, I'm going to go?
Just going to come back.
I like it. Just keeps calling you back. You can't get away.
And
Okay,
then you want me to throw you a curveball?
Yes, please.
Even a bigger curveball.
Okay.
So I get here, move into a condo that I had found, and I think it was in the first week or 2 weeks, I get a knock at my door. I'm living with some dudes I don't know.
Okay.
And it was my fiance.
No, why?
Because she had got married and then just got divorced.
And then she came back to you. No, you didn't let her though.
No.
Okay, good.
She is not my wife.
Okay, good.
I was like, what are you doing here? She goes, well, it didn't work.
You
I'm like,
set a bigger curveball,
No.
so I was about to get pissed.
I just told you. You're like, we're done with this
Yeah,
podcast.
I was about to say, you know what? Let's not.
You're a bad dude.
Don't take that advice, anybody. That's incredible.
No.
She literally knocked on your door, and what'd she say?
She found me somehow. I don't know.
And
she's just like, hey, can we talk? It didn't work, whatever. I want to see if this will work. I'm like, what?
You just said no.
So I went and talked to her just to hear her out, but I'm like, no. So I never saw her again after that.
Oh my goodness sakes. That I can't wrap my head around what's going through her head at that moment. Like, oh, I sent this dude off, engaged. I got married while he's gone.
I crushed him.
Yeah, I got married while he's
And then
gone.
I think that maybe he'll forgive me.
Got a divorce. And I'm like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah. Guess we'll go to number 2.
Oh, that's crazy.
There you are.
So you did.
So that's my life right
That's
there,
a good
all in a
curveball.
bucket.
I like that. So were you in Provo?
I was in Provo, yeah.
Living in Provo with some random dudes.
Yeah.
Then what?
I'm
I'm loving this, by the way.
Oh, okay.
This is great.
You just said just your story. So
This is
here's my
great.
story.
I'm loving it.
I'm living in Provo. Met this beautiful gal from Arizona. Started dating. Got serious actually pretty quick. Like feeling like, hey, next thing to do is get married. right?
You're off the
Fine.
mish too, so you got that in there.
Yeah, and I'm a little older. I mean, I'd lived on my own for 3.5 years out of high school.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like I just came out of high school and went on my mission.
Yep.
It's like I had lived a life before my mission life.
You already got your city life.
I already had my city life. I already
Good.
scratched that itch
Good.
too, Zach.
Good.
So anyway, dated this gal. She was amazing. Everything about her was amazing. She was falling in love. I was getting there. I just wasn't there yet. And one of my mission companions called and said, "Hey, I'm going to go with a couple of our buddies on a date. Would you like to come?" I'm like, "Sure." So I went on a date with a bunch of other mission companions, but there was really just a double date between me and this guy that called.
With the same girl you've been hanging out with, or a different girl?
Same
Okay,
girl.
okay.
I mean, she was my serious girlfriend at the time.
Cool.
I thought I was going to maybe marry her. I didn't know.
Cool.
And I was on this mission or on this date with this mission companion of mine, and he brought this beautiful girl with him, and it was their first date. And I was like, "What are you with this loser for?" Because I love my companion. He's a stud, but I'm like, she's way better than you, dude.
Way out of your league.
And turned out to be my wife.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm on a date with the girl that I thought I was going to marry. And I'm looking at this girl going, what? It struck me. And I didn't know at the time, but she was like, "Oh, he's taken," because there was something there. So I will tell you, I'll skip forward because there's quite a bit to talk about if you want today. But I remember being in my apartment. We had hung out in the same group a couple times. I saw her a couple times. I'm like, she's beautiful. And I just was not falling in love with my girlfriend. And Shauna, her name's Shauna.
Your wife?
My wife,
Okay.
from Alabama, southern
What part?
Dothan. Southern.
I know Dothan. I used to work in Montgomery, Auburn, all that area, and then down south we'd go down
With
Dothan.
the company, with Vivint?
Yeah, Dothan.
No way.
Yes, sir.
It's like in the sticks, bro.
It's like the bottom corner.
It's
Dothan
Florida,
is- Yeah, exactly. It is.
So she
That's
was
awesome.
born in Palatka,
Dothan.
which is right over the border in
Yep.
Florida, because that's where their family farm was.
That's so sick.
So we'll get
She's
there.
Alabama girl. I
She's
like her.
She's badass.
I need to have her on here too.
You do. She's super dope.
I would love that. Okay, sorry,
Anyway,
keep going.
and you can hear her version of the story.
I know it's gonna be totally different. It's
Yeah.
like this dude was weird. He kept staring at me on the date. I'm kidding.
Well, we never even really talked about it. So Shauna said that one night she just had to muster up all the courage she had.
Okay.
She calls over to my apartment, and I'm living now with some of these ex-companions that I had.
Yep.
Just a bunch of dudes I knew that we were good friends.
Yep.
And we were living in the same complex. It's actually just right down the street. And I answered the phone because then it was a cord to the wall.
Yep.
So you know.
Yep.
So I answer the phone and I say, "What's up?" And she's like, "Hey, this is Shauna." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Shauna? Let me get Joey for you." Because I thought she was calling for my buddy that she'd gone on a couple dates with.
Yeah.
And she says, "No, I'm calling for you." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm calling for you." I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" And she's like, "I was just calling wondering when you're going to ask me out." And I said,
That's gangster.
"Total.
That's gangster.
I've never had a girl do that in my life." And she said she was petrified. And I was like, that took so much courage for her just to do that. So I was like, "Right now, go downstairs. I'll meet you outside. I'll pick you up." So I went
sick.
downstairs, picked her up. We went out and just sat and talked for like 3-4 hours. Just got to know each other. And I brought her back to her place, dropped her off at her door, gave her a hug. It happened. Had
That's
to
so
give her a
crazy.
kiss.
You gave her a kiss.
Yeah. And then I
First
was like,
date. Then you felt bad.
No, I was like,
Oh,
she.
you fell in
she's-
love.
Yeah, super fast. Gosh. So I had to go break my girlfriend's heart.
Oh no.
And then Shauna and I progressed pretty quick. I mean, we were married in 9 months.
See, that's cool. But that's cool. And the fact that something came of it is cool, right?
Yeah.
It would be that'd be a bummer story if nothing came of it,
No,
and it's like
it
just
happened.
breaking people's
And it
hearts.
happened
Like
fast.
that's
And then
so cool.
my girlfriend too, obviously that was sad, but she's married. She's got, I think, 3 or 4 kids now.
Good.
And she's happy. So it's all worked out.
Good.
That was just,
It always does. See,
Yeah,
that's
it always works
awesome.
out for
That
everybody.
your wife is a gangster.
she
That
is
so cool.
And she tells kids all the time around her. She's just like, you know what? Sometimes it just takes just 1 minute of courage to change your life for the better.
Yep.
So she always
100%.
tells people that, and she tells them that story. She's like, my life would have turned out different if I wouldn't have done that.
That's so cool.
Because I
That's-
wouldn't have known.
And that's cool of her, because even though like you were in a spot where if you did something like that, you're a total dick. Right.
100%.
and if she comes to you like that's ballsy. Good for her. That's awesome. That's so cool. Tell her
There's
that
my
I
life.
was absolutely impressed. That's
for
cool.
sure I will.
So you
will.
and Shauna get married very quick. So you're still young 20s, mid
23.
20s. That's awesome. And And then what? Because now you got fast forwarding, you guys are partners. There's obviously a lot in between there. And then obviously I have questions for you about everything. But like,
yeah. So at the time I was still going to school and I was the school guy that did school stopped, school stop, school stop. It's not ADD. You know, my boys have ADD, I think. But
not you.
Yeah. It wasn't
not
me.
you. Just
No,
them.
I don't know what they called it back then. It was probably ADD, but I didn't go to school consistently like other kids do. I didn't love it, but I knew I needed it. When I say I needed it, I always learned something, right?
Yep.
Where I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty good to learn. And I was getting to the point now where I had to kind of choose my major. So I'm like, I got to choose a major. I don't really know what I want to do. And so I chose a major, which was marketing and then also finance, because I knew that finance was the underbelly of all business. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You got to understand numbers.
You have to.
Somehow, right? Not accounting's very specific. Finance, I'm like, that will help me in my life. And then marketing. I mean, if you're going to sell something, marketing is the underbelly of everything sales too. And I always felt like I was a sales guy because I was.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I chose. And as I'm going to school, I had a roommate, and this is while Sean and I were dating. I had a roommate that was in computer science at BYU. And he came to me and we were watching a commercial one night and it was Jaguar. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if you could put that on the internet? And remember, this is 1998.
So where is the internet progression at there?
A couple of years in, man.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
so,
gangster too.
and so I'm like, yeah, that would be super cool because I've always liked cars. And he knew that. And he's like, I'm going to work with my classmates. We're going to figure out how to put that on the internet. So he's working at BYU building this code. It's called a codec. And he came to me like a month later and showed me that commercial on the internet.
What?
And I'm like, wait, what am I looking at? And he's like, yeah, that commercial. I'm like, and that's on the internet. He's like, yeah, that's what you're looking at. Blew my mind.
Like just created a URL you could go to watch the commercial or what?
No, it was on top of a web page. So it was on top of it.
Got you.
And so it was like a pop-up.
Yep.
And back then, again, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? It was the first kind of times I'd seen it. And so like everybody would do, I just started calling Jaguar, right? I'm a sales guy.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we do this? I'm like, let's see if Jaguar wants to buy it.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking there's a company there. I'm just like, let's see if they'll buy it.
Yeah.
I called Jaguar 500 times. Talk about perseverance. Like every day, called. And I didn't really have emails. I didn't know how to find that. Just called, see if someone would answer.
Yeah.
Finally got to someone and say, I have a technology you need to look at. It's going to blow your mind with your commercial. And they're like, okay, let me send you to some underlane. And they sent me to the person. He said, what's your email? I sent him an email, gave him the link, pulls it up. I can hear him listening to it. And he says, what the heck is this? I'm like, this is your commercial on the internet. He's like, how much is it? And I'm like, 125,000. And he's like, okay, hold on a second. Let me go talk to my boss. Talk to his boss, came back. He's like, we'll take it. We'll use it.
No
like
way.
how often do we get to use it? I'm like, wait, that's just to use it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go.
You're like, it's 125,000 annually.
Yeah. So I go to my roommate and I'm like, we got a company, dude. We got Jaguar as a client. And he's like, what do we do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's go set up a business. Then I started asking around, how do you set up a business?
I love that.
We literally out of the freaking woodwork came up with a company. I'm like, do a commercial for BMW. Do one for Mercedes.
What's the benefit to them just to be able to send
market
it out?
their brand? So they pay all this money to build a commercial, $500,000, million.
And it's only on TV.
Yeah. And now the internet's this new thing. It's blown everybody's mind. And they wanted to promote, Jaguar initially wanted to promote test drives. So they wanted to send it to you. You see a new car that they were promoting on TV. You then click on it, set up a test drive, and then they came to your house, picked you up in the car.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's what we did initially with them.
That's way cool.
So we just started going after all the car companies. Then we went to credit card companies, and we were signing up Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies everywhere. And so we were a legitimized company immediately.
Did you eventually have credibility where you could get through to these people a lot quicker and easier?
Oh, yeah. Because I'd say, we're doing it for Jaguar, and we're doing it for BMW, and Mercedes are like, what? And so then American Express signed, and then Citibank signed. And
no way. That's crazy. And how long did you guys do that for? You could run that up.
We did that for several years. And then, this is early on. So this is 2000 now.
Okay.
And the technology, we had a team of about 40 people, I think. And we were literally across the street from the studio here, down in the salmon colored buildings.
Yeah.
That's where my first offices were for my tech company.
That is psycho. That's cool. And how long, no offense meant by this question. I just don't, that was when I was born. How long was that like beneficial before it became obsolete? Because eventually there was probably software out where it was like,
so this is
they could do it
crazy
themselves really easy.
This is a curveball that you probably wouldn't know, and nobody knows this. But there was 3 other companies that were really kind of starting to come out. And whenever you have a technology and you think, I'm the only guy that's doing this,
Yep.
You're not.
Yeah.
Like there's everybody out there coming up with stuff that's kind of overlapping or new because the technology moves so fast. And so there was a company out of New York called Interstitial. There was one out of Southern California called Mind Arrow Systems. And then there's one that was run by a guy that nobody knows. His name is Mark Cuban. So all of us were running tech companies with streaming media players. And we were going around and trying to get, sports companies to use it. And others were Fortune 500 companies. These guys were retail companies. So we would go to these tech shows, right? These trade shows is how you do it.
Yeah.
And there's still trade shows now, but they were bigger then. And we would have this big booth selling our software. And across from us was Cuban's booth and Interstitial and Mind Arrow. So yeah, we started crowding the space with our tech. And all of us had a little bit of a different tech. Mark sold his business, watched that thing happen. I'm like, holy crap, he's just sold that for a few $1 billion.
Yep.
Interstitial goes public, $1.5 billion. Mind Arrow Systems, $1 billion, $1.2 billion. So I'm like, we got to go. I mean, we have big clients too. We're a viable business. And this is 2001. And so I start going to market, getting my business ready, me and my partners. And the market popped before we could get out. So the dot-com bubble hit. So I didn't get out.
It got stuck.
No. I was not able to go out like everybody else. No. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, my business was like this, right? And it was the creme de la creme. Raised some
6 months prior, you could have
gone out. It would have been,
but it all happens for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, my life has been great, but at that moment, it wasn't great. I mean, it was a dark time
for sure.
Like, think about going to the office and going, "What do I tell my team when the whole market's crashing?" Tech companies going out of business left and right, and most of them were going out of business because they didn't have a product. They had no revenue. They had an idea. And that was why that happened, because people were going public or raising huge rounds of money and they didn't have a viable product. Well, we were viable. We made it through it. Grit,
you survived.
Grit. I mean, perseverance, grit, shrunk down a bit. And Mind Arrow Systems out of Southern California came to us and said, let's not compete anymore. Market is shrinking. Let us buy you. So they actually bought us.
Oh, they did?
So it was still a success.
That's awesome.
Now, was it the ring the bell and go public like I wanted? No. But on the backside of that, I think that was a total success still because we didn't give up.
Yeah.
And so they bought us, had an office up in Salt Lake with our team. So we were in Southern California and here. And I was 3 quarters into that, reporting quarters. And I realized I just don't love being public. I didn't love it. It just took kind of the heart and soul out of it for me.
They bought you, kept you in position, got you, but everything gets corporatized at that point, I assume.
It does. And corporatizing it and institutionalizing it, making it for the public market to see. I understand it, and it was cool, but I kind of scratched that itch like within a quarter.
Yeah.
After that, I felt like I'm a robot, and I'm a sales guy that I'm just putting up numbers, and there's no fun in it anymore for me. That was for me.
Yep. And
so I started already kind of thinking forward to my next thing, and just real quick, you can ask whatever you want, but decided to resign, resigned, started a financial software company to solve a problem that I saw with my wealth manager, that he didn't have a financial dashboard that I wanted, so I created that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started selling it to wealth managers across the country. It was selling. I had some tech guys I had hired. And then I had one financial wealth management company out of Michigan call and say, we don't want anybody else to have your software. We just wanted, I'm like, well, make an offer. So they made an offer I couldn't refuse, and I took that deal. So I sold that 2 years in. And you're 26.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So I sold that to them, and then I rolled it into my last tech company, which was called Access Point, because I moved in my home. I built this new, beautiful home for my family and my wife and my 2 boys. And the builder had all this crap stuck everywhere. Like, you have this $1 million home that I built at the time. This is 2000, whatever this is, 2006, 7.
Yep.
No, this is 2003. And I didn't have a manual, or I didn't have any of the information on my home. I'm like, this has got to be a better way. I'm going to make it better. So then I created a technology to gather all of that and put it into a nice manual online, do all of your warranty service tickets online. So I just did that. And then I raised $40 million private equity money to back me by one of the biggest private equity firms out of San Francisco. And we were growing like this again, month over month, quarter over quarter. We're going to take our business. We had 2,800 home builders nationwide, 2,800. Everyone from Donald Trump was my client, all the way down to like local
The
home
fact
builders.
that you kept all your hair is probably one of the coolest parts of this.
Yeah, I had
Through
shorter hair at
that
the time
stress,
too.
through that stress, the fact that
Oh
you
my
kept it
gosh.
and it looks incredible is amazing.
It's a little bit more gray, Zach.
I like it. The gray is a good look. So you, what is that? Your third ride
Third ride, yeah.
on a company that's just exploding.
It's exploding. And it was one of the funnest times for me too. We were in Thanksgiving Point when Thanksgiving Point wasn't Silicon Slopes. Josh hadn't coined it that yet.
Yep.
And we were having a fun time. I mean, we had so much growth and so many builders using our technology because there was nothing out there like it. And my story turned in 2007 when I was CEO of this company, living my best life. And Shauna came to me. We had 2 toddler boys. We have 2 boys. That's what we had. And we're the all-American family. We can fit in a car.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not Utah typical.
It's not Utah typical.
It's not Utah typical.
No. But she came to me and she said, listen, I have been a corporate wife all these years because when you're a wife to an entrepreneur, you hear it all. Like the place you go and like vent everything is to your partner, and your partner's your wife or your spouse, your husband.
Yep.
And they know everything about the business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And she was always so supportive to me. And she says, I want to do something with my life other than just be a mom. I love this as my job, but I want to do something else. I'm like, great. What do you want to do? And she says, I want to open a restaurant. And in my mind, I'll tell you what happened in my mind.
Yeah.
It's the same fallacy and misperception and misconception of everybody. And that was restaurant. You don't make money. You work forever. They all fail.
Yep.
The same crap everybody thinks in their head, right?
100%.
And so that's what I'm thinking. But what came out of my mouth was like, I'd love to do that with you. Let's do that. I'd love to support you. Because you've been so supportive for me.
Good answer.
So I'm like, of course we'll do that. So I'm driving I lived in Highland at the time, and I'm driving down the Timpanogos Highway, right? There's a Smith's Marketplace that's being built, and there's a sign out there saying out parcels for sale. I don't know. You pick up the phone, and I'm like, yeah, you selling some lots out here? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'll buy one. $1 million, 1 acre lot. I thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Sean, I got a piece of land here. What do you want to put on there? And she says, I want to put a Kneader's Bakery and Cafe. And I'm like, okay, cool, dope. I like that food. It's good. And so I said, let's go talk to the founders. And we went to talk to the founders. And the conversation I had with them is honestly why I find myself 15 years later sitting with you today doing what I'm doing. So hear this out.
Really?
Yeah. They say, I say, so you have, 5 Kneaders. It's been 10 years. Why don't you have more? And they're like, well, we've never built a team for scale. And we never raised the money to structure growth capital, and we don't know how to do that. I'm like, that's what I know how to do. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of put that in the back of my mind. I'm like, sounds like it's easy. So we start building the first restaurant up in Highland. They give us the rights to be franchisees of Kneaders. We get into 2008, though, Zach. And
Perfect time to start a restaurant.
it was perfect, yeah. And in August, we're getting to the point where we're almost done with the building.
Yep.
Got several $1 million into this project.
Yep.
Go into the office every day, and then the financial markets crash. And I'm like, how in the hell does someone go through 2 big crashes as a CEO of a company twice in their life?
Yeah.
Right? And my life is melting down because it was a financial crash, but it was also construction industry crash too, because you didn't have financing.
Yep.
So we had 2,800 home builders. I'd say 1,000 of them, it was like, they weren't even answering their phones. They just shut their doors and went home. Just like, we're done.
They just gave up.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have an
life-
option.
No, wasn't even an option. People were building a tower, Zach, and it was like a 60-floor tower in Miami. They were at floor 38. And it's like, it's a 38-floor building now. They put a cap on
Just
it.
put
And
on
they're done.
That's amazing.
So it was a tough time for me because I'm like, I have to go live this again, but I've done it before in the .com bubble and I got to do it again.
What up, everybody? Thank you guys for listening. Today's show is brought to you guys by the Alchemy Excellence 2024 event. I want to tell you guys a little bit about that and then get you guys a discount for that. But the Alchemy Excellence event is coming up. It's January 23rd and 24th. For those of you guys that are wanting to start your year off huge, anyone who's in sales and recruiting, owns a business, whatever it may be, the lineup of speakers is incredible. We have Todd Peterson confirmed, Kelsey Wells, Doug, myself will be presenting, Jason Shaw, Casey Baugh, Jimmy Rex, Jeff Mendez. The list is amazing, and that's only some of the speakers. It'll be a short 2-day event, absolutely worth your time. Again, if you're trying to go and start your year off right, these are the type of events that put you in proximity with the people who will push you to the next level. And even if you're dominating, if you're on an absolute roll, it never hurts to go and get a little bit better. So mark it on your calendars. It's the 23rd and 24th. And then use the code EARLYBIRD24 for 50% off your tickets. I strongly encourage anybody who wants to have a big 2024 to go and get your tickets. And I'd love to see you guys there and to chat about the podcast and everything else. So I'll see you guys in January. Until next time. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to take a second to thank today's sponsor for the podcast. The dudes who run this company are some of the coolest dudes that I know. The company is killing it. And I personally used the product multiple times, but the sponsor today is King Cool Plunge. They make the best local cold plunges that I've ever used. And those of you guys that know me, you know I love to sauna, I love to cold plunge, and they absolutely kick ass. So make sure you go check out King Cool Plunge on their website. That's KINGKOOLPLUNGE.com. And use code TTD for $350 off.
And so I was not living my best life. And we opened up our first restaurant in October of 2008. And Shauna goes in there every day, working the business. We got a nanny. And Zach, it was a crushing success.
Really?
In the middle of the crash, it is literally slammed.
Why do you think?
Why do I know now?
Yeah, why do you know?
So I'm watching this and I'm like, the world is literally melting down. Everyone's panicking. People are, because it was a panic at the time because it happened so fast. It was like that.
For sure.
And I remember people getting let go of their jobs because there's no jobs because businesses are shutting down.
Yeah.
So unemployment went way up. And when we put out for, I think 60 positions or 70 positions to hire for our business, for the bakery,
yeah,
we had like 500 applicants. And they were dudes that were making good money, but they're like, I just need a job to put food on the table. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
And so we opened and it was busy. And I remember going into the restaurant occasionally watching Shauna and the people in there. And the thing that I realized is that they were happy in there. They were happy sitting, breaking bread, talking about whatever, the miserable stuff, but they're having fun right there because it's an emotional and a social connection between you and I if we're going to go sit down and have some food together and talk about what's going on in our business.
Yeah.
And it's something you have to do. Does not matter what's going on in the world.
You have to eat.
Does not matter what's going on in the stock market. Dude, you and I have to eat 3 squares a day today, unless it's a Red Bull this morning and then 2 meals, but you're going to eat, right? You're going to eat. And it just hit me like, doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I got to eat today. They're eating and they're happy here.
Yeah.
So I started watching this while I'm trying to keep my business alive. Shauna going every month. Every month I'm like, so are all your bills paid? She goes, yeah. I'm like, and that's your profit? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, what? I've never made profit in my life. I'm a tech company. Tech companies don't make money.
Yeah.
If anybody sits here and says that I'm a tech company
You raise
making money,
money,
like 1% of them do. And so I'm like, that is mind-boggling that you can make that much cash flow out of this. So I ran the business. We survived. We ended up selling it in March of 2009. So it was a success again. Survived it.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And I had the option of staying on as president or do something different. And so I called up Shauna and I said, hey, what if I come join you? Come do this with you. And she's like, great. My dishwasher called out. Come on in. I'm like, fine. So I went in the store and I'm washing dishes, dude. So I literally went from the boardroom.
I love your wife, dude. I love your wife. That's incredible.
I went from the boardroom, high and mighty tech guy to the dish pit, dude. Seriously.
And was there a part of you that loved it? Out of curiosity.
The first hour, yes. Right?
Yeah.
It was the first hour I liked it. And then I would say that, the first couple of days, I'm like, I can't do this. This is beneath me.
Yeah.
And I've just screwed my whole life up if I do this, right?
Yep.
And then for some reason, I got stung by the bee, man. And I'm just like, I'm going to do some research on the industry. So I started looking at the industry. The crazy thing about this industry, the food and beverage industry, is it's always up and to the right, just growing like this.
Always.
Always. Does not matter what's going on in the world. If there's a recession, you know what it does? It goes like this and flattens a little bit. And then as the market comes back, it does this again.
Why is that?
Because
I know you always have to eat, right?
Always have to eat. Population's growing. And less people are cooking at home. So think about how many times you cook a meal at home.
So true. That's so true.
right? You're not
Yep.
Betty Crocker. I'm not Betty Crocker. I like to cook occasionally, once a week maybe.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like you eat out or you grab something on the way, or
Yep.
we're all eating out. So I watched that trend and I'm like, it's not like tech where the market's like this.
Yeah.
If you look past 30 years, it's like it's a boom or bust. And food and beverage is just this. And I'm like, I need some stability in my life. I'm so tired of the roller coaster, man.
Yeah.
I've had success in it, but I was tired of it. And so I said to her, I'm like, well, let's set a moonshot. What should we do? And she goes, let's do 5 of these. I'm like, all right. So we started building a couple more. And our life then, Zach, has just been a series of moonshot after moonshot. We ended up doing 50 neaters,
Oh my gosh.
50 of them. And then we did 87 Little Caesars down in the Southeast. And then we did the next thing and then the next thing, to where we've done 400 plus restaurants, several $1 billion in sales, and hundreds of millions of profit. That I didn't plan that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's just moonshot after moonshot. That's what we call our whole career has been just moonshot after moonshot.
Would define moonshot. Like,
A moonshot is, wouldn't it be cool if we had 10 of these? That's a moonshot. It's like, it seems like you can't,
unattainable,
unrealistic. It's unrealistic to get there.
but exciting.
It's exciting.
think about.
Yeah. So set a moonshot. And if you come up short, at least you're still at a higher level than you were today when you set the moonshot, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, what if we were to do this? It's like, okay, we had a goal of having 100 neaters, but we got to a 50 and we sold them.
Yep.
And then let's go do this and set a moonshot. And then let's start with that. And then we would get to a certain point and say, it's good enough. And we would sell that. And so our whole career together. So we've worked together literally since 2009 till today. And people have asked several times, like, do you guys enjoy it? Would you guys do it again? And I'm like, I probably should have started my career working with her because we like it that much. And we're good compliments to each other. And she's wicked smart. She's a great leader. And she's in her swim lane and I'm into my swim lane. And we swim next to each other and we do a good job. But I love it.
That's so awesome. That is so cool. That's such a fun story. And the Savory Fund, like, you guys have done, what are some other things you guys have done just so people recognize what the Savory Fund is?
Yeah, so it's a fun story because most people, when it's a private equity firm, Zach, a lot of times it's you and a few other guys work in a fund, right, in a firm.
Yeah.
And then you guys talk and say, let's go do our own firm. And so then firms are spawned from each other.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's fine. We're in a market where we have free agency and it's a capitalistic market. And so you can go and do whatever you want.
Yep.
And so I don't take that against anybody, but ours was interesting because we were operators and we had, 100 people in our office that were supporting our empire of restaurants. And I say empire, it's everybody else built it into an empire. I did very little, but we have all these people working with us that are experts at construction and real estate selection and recruiting and training and finance and HR and all of the stuff under the umbrella to run an enterprise.
Yeah.
We had. And brands started coming to us all the time saying, hey, can you do what you did for them for us? So they would just ask. And I'm like, yeah, I think, but I'm really busy with what we're doing. So let me just give you some advice. So I would just give advice and I just help companies out. And I enjoyed that anyway because nobody helped me out. So I'm like, I'm going to pay it back and just say, I'm going to help when people ask.
Yeah.
And so I finally had a pivot in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to start helping other brands because I think that we can, with our team, help them gain scale. Because what I realize is that in the food and beverage industry, let's say you and your buddy come up with a concept and it hits. Serendipitously it hits because it's all luck. The riskiest time to get into a food and beverage concept is number 1. Just so you know, that's the riskiest. But it's also risky for any business. People think it's food and beverage that's risky. No, every business. When you start, it's always the riskiest.
Yep.
A lawn business. It could be a window washing business. It could be starting in summer sales and going and starting an area brand new. There's risk.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what it is. But if you hit on the first one and you have all these customers coming in and going, oh my gosh, you should come over to Spanish Fork.
Yep.
And then you go look in Spanish Fork and find a place and then you open that up and that hits. When you do that 4 or 5 times, now you have a nice little business, got some good cash flow. But the skill set to get it from 4, 5, 6, 7 units as a founder to 60, 70, or 100, very different skill set.
Yeah.
This requires building restaurants in other states you don't know and taking big risk and signing lots of leases and hiring thousands of people. And that skill set's different.
Totally different.
It's not that person can't do it.
Mhm.
We figured it out. It was very hard and a lot of risk. but it's just a different skill set. So
Yeah.
there's all these great brands that hit this, and we could then call them emerging, not startup, but emerging brands.
Okay.
And when they're emerging, they need help from there to here to get the big groups to go, ooh,
And that's
we
where
like
you
that
guys step
Cafe Rio brand
Mm-hmm.
and we want to buy it. We're the guys that will take Cafe Rio from not that we're part of Cafe Rio, but when you watch that grow, it was 5, 6, 7, they took some money on, they grew it to 100 units, and then a big firm came in and bought them out. And now they're growing it even more.
Mm-hmm.
This chasm is what we fill.
Got it.
It's the middle chasm that
Where
nobody can
where
help
they
with.
hit a few times to the spot of being able to go and really be
Really be
one of the players.
several $100 million business.
That's crazy.
So the impetus of Savory, people don't understand how it started. But my firm, we were doing for 10 years, Neaters, Caesars. We had just barely bought into this little rink-a-dink company that nobody thought would work called Swig. And then
We know how that went.
Yeah. And then I bought into a brand that I really liked, but I was introduced to the founders, Mo Betta's Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met Nicole Tanner with Swig, she was just asking for advice. Again, I was just giving her advice. And I gave her advice, and she left my office, and she was asking me, she's like, I have all of this success right now. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand it because I didn't. Like in Chicago, you go to 7-Eleven and get a big gulp. Like, what are people in your drive-through for? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, 100%.
Paying for a premium drink. So she called me like 2 hours after she left my office, and she goes, can you just help me do it? Because you gave me all that advice, but can you help me? I'm like, yeah, let me think about it. But that's how that one started. It was just giving her advice. And I took a flyer on that one because I just didn't know if it would work, but it was intriguing to me. Same thing with Mo Betta's and the same thing with R&R Barbecue. And at that time, I was racing around the country. I was racing Porsche.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
cool. How old were you at this time, by the way? Because as you guys started it, you were still in your 20s, no? Late 20s or early 30s?
Late 20, just turned 30, and now I'm 43.
It's amazing. And
So
you
I did it
raced
for about 10 years.
you
So
raced.
I raced for about 4 years.
So sick.
So I raced Porsche, and we had a little team that we put together called Reardon, and I put it together with Jeff Curl from
Yeah, I know Jeff.
Yeah,
That's who
Jeff's-
Jake races for right now.
Yeah. So Jake Peterson's a stud.
He
I've
is.
raced with him.
Have you?
Oh yeah. And so we had a team that had Jeff Curl in it, and Josh James was in there with his Domo car, and Todd was in there with his Vivint car, and then myself, and then we had one other racer, and then Greg Warnock, which is he's the founder of Mercado Partners. And so we would race around the country, and we had this race in California about 6 years ago, and we're practicing during the day, and then in the middle of the day, I'm sitting there with a couple of them and Greg, and they were saying, so Andrew, tell us a little bit about the food and beverage industry. And so I told them a little bit about what I just told you.
Yeah.
And they're like, can you make any money in restaurants? I always get that question. And I'm just like, and I know all of their businesses very well. I've known all these guys for 2 decades, but I said, yeah, you can make money. And they're like, well, so like, what will you do this year in sales? I'm like, I don't know, 200 million in sales. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And we'll do like 60 million in profit. And they're just like, what?
Because I would actually ask the same thing. Like, is it profitable?
Yeah. 60 million bucks.
That is psycho.
So I had Greg sitting there with me, and we started having a kind of a conversation off to the side ourselves. And he's like, you ever thought about doing what you're doing, but doing it under a private equity umbrella? Because I'm private equity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about raising a fund instead of using the Bank of Andrew and Sean all the time and signing personal guarantees and doing it all yourself, and maybe having a few other friends and stuff invest with you? Like, yeah, but it's working, and I just haven't taken any time to do it. He goes, well, what if you do it with me? I institutionalize the fund. We raise a fund together, and we just do it under a new moniker. I'm like, cool. That sounds like an amazing
Which
plan.
just removes risk from you, right?
I mean, I still have risk because my money's in it too.
For sure.
But still, less risk, more participants, more cash. You don't have to worry about
Which means
raising.
you can scale
per deal.
more.
You can scale more.
Scale
It's a better
quicker.
structure because it's safer for the investors too, more diversity. Instead of having your money into one brand, it's into all the brands. And so I was just like, that'd be great. And he goes, join forces with the Mercado, be a managing director, founder of the firm with me. And I said, great. Shook hands with him. I said, let's do it. Zipped up our vest and went and raced a 25-hour race together.
That's so sick.
So that was the start of Savory.
So that's the beginning of Savory.
That was the beginning of Savory.
And then since then, Savory has gone, and obviously, because you said that was
It
6
was
years ago.
2017 that we had that conversation. We launched Savory in 2018. I sold off all of my Kneaders, sold off all of my Caesars, because our strategy was just emerging. Now those were bigger. So let's go after emerging brands.
Which are the brands who have hit in a few places, but they don't have the ability or the knowledge or the skill set to go
They need
scale.
capital and they need a team.
Got it.
And so Savory started in October of 2018. We had our first close. We raised the $100 million on our first fund together. Bought 5 brands. So Swig, Mobetta's R&R, Via 313, which is Detroit style pizza. The Crack Shack, which we've also made an acquisition into Houston's Hot Chicken as well. And that's in Fund 1. And then Fund 2, we raised during COVID. So we started that in 2021.
Was that a scary time for you?
Scary time, but we can talk about that because it blew my mind how good it was for us. Good. I know it sounds crazy.
That does.
But in 2021, we raised another $100 million in January 2021. It took us 6 weeks to raise. That was all. So we raised $100 million, bought 5 more brands. Pincho out of Miami, Hash Kitchen, which is a brunch eatery, which we just opened in Draper too on 123rd, but it's in Scottsdale. AM Eatery, so brunch food, amazing. It's a party. So if you go in there, just know it's loud.
I love it.
Sicilian Butcher, which is an Italian concept, which is the best one I've seen. And then and made an investment to a Vietnamese quick serve restaurant down in Houston called Saigon Hustle. It's the coolest brand on the planet.
Really? 2
Vietnamese gals, both of them mothers of 4. And I'm like, why Saigon Hustle? And they're like, we're mothers of 4 little boys. We're from Vietnam. We got to hustle. So that's how they came up.
That's dope.
It's super good food too,
dope.
and very approachable. And made a couple tech investments as well. So we did that in Fund 2. And then we just launched Fund 3, 8 weeks ago. And have raised $110 million of $200 million. So we're going to raise $200 million in this fund.
That's amazing. Holy crap.
So that's Savory, just so you know.
Yeah, that is, dude, that's so sick.
So 10 brands and $310 million so far. And we're going to get up to $400 million.
So rad. That's awesome. So I like, in passing, I always hear, and I let you know, like I've known of you for actually quite some time, at least 5 years, right?
Hope it's good.
Right. Always very, very good things. And my experience with you's been amazing. You've been super, super cool. But it's like, I've always heard Savory too. Like, oh, Savory owns that. Like Savory owns that. Savory owns that. And I'm like, I don't even understand what that means or how that works. So thank you for breaking it down.
Yeah,
That's very, very cool. And then I've got a couple questions for you, and I want to be super respectful of your time. Time goes by really, really quick, but I want to be respectful of your time. My question for you is, going back in time, like, what would you say? Obviously, there's been a lot, right? Like a lot. And there's probably enough to go do 3 more episodes, right? But like, what would you say is one of the things that A, you wish you would have known, or B, is like the most like groundbreaking thing you learned about life in general, about whatever comes to mind?
Yeah. So I have an opportunity with entrepreneurs that reach out and say, hey, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? That's the sentence. And I would just say to everybody, don't ever use that sentence because it doesn't work. Right.
I've used that sentence a lot of times.
Don't say, because I don't want my brain picked and I don't really want you to buy me lunch. What I'd rather do is buy you lunch and then just share you some stories. Right. So the best thing to do is just say, I have some questions for you and I'd love to have you help me with my life journey, something like that, because that's really what you're asking for. Right.
Very true.
So when I meet with these different entrepreneurs, I do it 1 hour a week. I push it on my schedule as much as I can, and I have my assistant do it because I just didn't have anybody helping me. I just didn't. And so I'm like, I gotta tell them what I wish I would have known. So your question is timely because I'm always like, I wish someone would have told me this, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost is it's gonna take longer than you think. You can't do it overnight. You know, you think about all these people that have had success, you know, around the country, but here, even in this small bubble that we have, you know, someone like Todd, whom I respect and love, he's just such a good dude and a good friend. And what he created with Vivint, it was not an overnight success. And there were so many times that people don't understand that they were faced with difficult decisions of, do you shut the doors or do you keep going? And I think that every great business has had that moment where success was out of many conversations of, do we shut this down or not?
Yep.
And it's just the perseverance of like, no, let's just go another day or another week or another month. So number one is it's just not going to happen as fast as you think. And so pace yourself and enjoy the journey as well, because once you get to the end of it, it's fairly anticlimactic. I think everybody thinks like, once I get this, it'll be amazing. Or once I get this, I've arrived. And it's incredible how many people I've met and talked to where they have arrived, whatever that might mean.
Yep. And there's no fulfillment in it.
And they're on the backside of that and they're kind of just like, and like they all say it.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known. I remember having like the posters in my room growing up
Mhm.
of cars, right, Zach? And I remember one of them was a Ferrari, and I'm a Ferrari guy. I race Porsche, but I like Ferraris. And so I remember buying my first Ferrari, get my first big check. I'm like, I'm going to go buy my first Ferrari, get my red Ferrari, tan leather, 360 Modena, gate shifted. I'm just so excited. Get in it. I'm driving my Ferrari. I'm just like, this thing is so dope. I've arrived, right?
Yep.
Life could not be better. Next day, I get in. I'm like, this is super cool. Week later, I get in. I'm like, it's pretty cool. Another week later, it's like, it's just a car. That fast. It was such a letdown that fast. It was kind of is not, right?
Yeah.
Now, has that stopped me buying cars and having fun with it? No, because it's a hobby and it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's not
But you've attached a
fulfilling.
different meaning to it.
Yeah, it's more like I like the history of the cars and the structure of them and how they were built, and I like go picking things out and stuff. That's fun, but it's not the reason anymore, right?
Yep.
The journey was cooler for me. So, one, it's going to take you longer. Two, don't push for the end because the end is pretty anticlimactic. And then what do you have, right? How
Yeah.
are you growing? Where are you pushing? What's the next summit?
Yeah.
I think when you get to that point where you kind of set it and you get to it, it's a false summit because you get to that and you're like,
And there's a new one.
but I could go there though. I want to go there. And then you get to that and you're like, well, shit, there's another one.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be something different, right?
Yep.
And then I think the third one, and then you can ask a follow-up question if you
Yeah,
want. But my
absolutely.
third one is, and I tell everybody this, is you can't skip steps. You have to do all of them. And unfortunately, fortunately, I have two amazing boys. I have a boy that's married and I have this beautiful daughter-in-law that I love more than I think my son, but I'm just kidding. But my son's the same way now. He's in college. He's wanting what everybody wants. We were talking last night about, Dad, I think I want to go get this new car and we're going to sell this car and this. And I'm like, why do you need this right now? You don't need that.
Yeah.
And he said a statement, and this is my fourth statement, is he said something that everybody his age is saying, even in their 20s and even early 30s, I keep hearing it. And he's like, but Dad, this person, because I know that his friend is like, he's buying an Audi, and this person over here just bought a house with his wife, and this person over here. And I say, son, you know exactly how I feel about that. And I'll tell every entrepreneur, and I'll tell my own boys this, and that is, stop looking side to side, because comparison is the thief of joy. You will never be happy if you're looking side to side going, oh my gosh, he's further than me. Oh my gosh, he's further than me. Ha ha, I'm ahead of that person. Does that really make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
And listen, there are people out there that's where they get joy. I'm telling you there's no joy in it.
Yeah.
It's pretty lonely if you're ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And it also sucks if all you're doing is looking side to side saying, they're better than me. No, they're not.
Yeah.
We're all on our own path. Focus ahead.
That's kind of the whole point of everything. If you can get to the point where you truly enjoy getting to where you're going, wherever that may be, then you're the happy dude in every situation of life, or the happy late, like that, then you're happy.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some other things? You just mentioned one, which is a huge one, looking side to side, and comparison is absolutely the thief of joy. It's one of my favorite sayings.
Because it is.
But
Yeah.
it's also kind of addicting, right?
Yep.
So it's something you work on constantly is what I found. But what are some other things that prevent people from enjoying like the journey rather than just clinging onto the destination? What are some other things? That's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah,
right?
it's the biggest one. I think that I tell everybody, have a purpose, right? A purpose for doing it. So when you say comparison, let me tell you this too, Zach. I think that comparison is actually a good thing also, though, because there's always a flip side to a statement, right? Like comparison is the thief of joy. But how does comparison help us?
Mm-hmm.
If you do something in your life that I'm like, that's very admirable, well, then it pushes me to want to do something like it.
Yep.
Comparing that to what I would do.
Stretches
your ideas, your mind, your scope of what you're possible. We all learn from others, right? Why do we read biographies of people like Steve Jobs? Or because we want to look at him and go, we want to emulate him. We want to do some of the things he did. And it's helped a lot of other business people watch what he's done and compare themselves and go, I could probably do this better. I could probably wake up a little earlier. I could probably work a little longer.
Yep.
Right. So comparison is not always bad, but if you're comparing because of things, it is the thief of joy, right? That's what I would say.
That makes sense.
But then the purpose too. I remember in my 20s as a tech CEO that I would look around at these tech companies and I'm like, they just went public or they just sold or whatever. I'm like, I got to do that. And I think I was a little bit more cutthroat. I was a little more temperamental. I think I lashed a little bit more at employees and people around me because I just had to get there at all costs, right? Yep. And I would say that my purpose was the money, right? It's the accolades, it's the money. And I had to go back in my mind. I had received this painting, and I don't know if you've ever seen this painting, but it's a painting and it has a businessman and he's dressed in a suit and he's got a ball cap on. He's got an apple on his face. Have you ever seen that painting?
I have, yeah.
It's called The Son of Man. And I don't collect art, but I have this painting from the president of Sears and Roebuck in Chicago. He was a family friend. And he gave me that painting and said, remember what this means to you, but let me tell you what the artist painted it for. I'm like, okay. And he goes, this green apple, if you look at it closely, it's covering up his eyes, his face, everything else. He goes, what do you think the apple represents? I'm like, I don't know, but he's blind. And he's like, the apple is what's blinding you to what's great in life. So it could be money, envy, limelight, fame, but whatever it is. If you focus on that too much, it blinds you from all the great things in the world that are going on around you. And man, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I put it on my office wall. It's been on my office wall for 25 years.
That's
so
awesome.
I look at it and I go, because I fall into it too, Zach. Everyone does. We're human.
Yeah.
But I got to go, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. I have to have a purpose greater than that. So I have looked at it and said, I'm going to have a different purpose. And everybody has to find their purpose. My purpose is I want to create as many jobs as I can in a good, wholesome environment to give them opportunity to grow into a career. And so creating jobs is my push, right? That's just my drive. And because that's my drive, I've created 45,000 jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to sleep until I hit 100,000 or something.
And had you not changed that, do you think you would have gotten as big as you are?
No, I think that because my drive is growth, taking other people's dreams, having them see their dream come true by helping them with my team. That's our initial goal. And because of that, we've had success.
I love that. That's gold.
Yeah.
The name of the podcast is Today's the Day. The whole point of it is like yesterday already happened. Tomorrow might not even happen. Today's all you've got at the end of the day. And that's what we strive to have. We strive to have guests on here who live that, embody that, explain that. And everything you've said has been so on brand. I can't even express it. I would absolutely love to have your wife on. I think it'd be an absolute blast. I think
your conversation would be fun because it'd be totally different from her perspective.
I feel like she would
the
absolutely
Southern Belle,
kill it.
she'd come teach you some things.
I would love it, dude. That's my people.
Okay, good.
But is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap it up? Is there any other advice you'd have? Majority of our listeners are right around your son's age, maybe a little bit older. What would your parting words be?
Yeah, my parting words would be that people have asked me, like, when's your toughest time? Was it in 2001 when the market crashed, or 2008, or COVID? You asked about COVID, which COVID for us was amazing. We galvanized as a team. We galvanized with the customers. We pivoted our business and just crushed it. Why? Perspective, working closely as a team, not quitting. And it turned out to be one of our best years.
That's amazing.
My hardest year ever. And, social media, from LinkedIn to Instagram to all the stuff that everybody uses, it's pretty viral, as we know. But I remember posting for my birthday this year. I think it would be, I said, I love my family. I thank you for everybody, the birthday wishes. I think it'd be a surprise to everybody to know that it's been my toughest year, my entire career, my life. And people just had hundreds of people say, are you okay? Is everything all right? Yeah, everything's fine. It's just been a tough year, really tough year. As a business owner and as a father and as a husband too, or building a house, selling a house, buying businesses, selling businesses. It's just so much, right? The problem is right now, I think, in the world is that there's so much, I would say, mental instability, but mental health issues that everyone's suffering. And I think it's self-imposed. When I say that, it's comparing ourselves to others, not thinking we're good enough, social media making it look like someone's having the time of their life and their life is perfect when really it's not, and us comparing ourselves against them and indexing ourselves. And I have so many people around me that I love and care for in my business and in my family that I'm like, how do we all get through this together without killing each other, right? Or making each other mentally unstable? And that's why I think it's been tough this year, because there's just a lot of instability in the world, right, Zach? And I think you probably feel that with your team and the guys you're working with. And so I would say this, and I say this to my boys too, and they've heard it since they were young, and it's something that I live by. And that is that positivity breeds success. Positivity it's an antidote for a lot of the stuff that we're all going through. And what I mean by that is this: you don't have to walk around like a happy idiot, slap, dumb, and happy, if that's not how you're feeling. I'm not saying that. I'll give you an example though. People look to me as a leader, or to you as a leader if you have a team or whatever, and they're like, however he feels, I should probably feel too, because that's what's going on subconsciously, right? And I think that as leaders or as friends, we have to be there for each other and be positive about the future. Because what happened 1 minute ago, it doesn't matter. It's past us. It doesn't matter what happened.
Yep.
What matters is the next minute today. Today's the day. What are we going to do today that matters the most, that then tomorrow's going to be better? And I always would say positivity breeds success. I get a call in my office. It's something I'm working on for months, a couple of weeks ago. And it was a big transaction, big for us, hundreds, millions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking in my mind, it's done, and it burned to the ground. And I get the call, it's done. It's not going to happen. I'm like, oh, it's just like, I walk out of my office and I see two of my accounting team members walking past me, and then one of my recruiters. Hey, what's up, Andrew? And I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? How's the day? How's this? How was your weekend? Whatever. I just don't even let it blemish how they view me, because I'm going to stay positive no matter what the case.
That's so powerful.
And because of that, it will breed additional success and other opportunities. And crazily enough, those people have come full circle and are back at the table. But what I'm saying is, you have to look at things and say, if I'm positive, good things will happen. If you start going down that drain, it's hard to pull out of that.
Yep.
And you don't know how much your influence of being positive will be what that person around you needed to push themselves to
That's
that next
so
step.
true.
So positivity breeds success. And I would say always look at today as the day to start something different about your attitude, about your life, that will make it better tomorrow.
Yep. I love that. That literally couldn't be anything better. I don't have anything to add to it other than just thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is. I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you making it down here. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Yeah, it was. That was a great conversation. So for everybody tuning in, thank you guys. And until next time, much love as always. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend, and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way, and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you, and I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.